You are Locked On Clippers Postcast, part of Locked On Los Angeles on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome. Welcome to the Clippers Podcast or Postcast on the Locked On Clippers podcast feed. And of course, you can watch us on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel, the place to hang out when every game is done. It has been a little working. There we go. We're back. All right. Let's just start all over again. All right. Welcome to the Clippers Postcast on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel, the place to hang out when every game is done. And you can listen to us on the Locked On Clippers podcast feed. I am Pete Fox. It has been a little while since we have been together, and it appears this time has been good for the Clippers. They have enjoyed the rest. They came out energized today against the Dallas Mavericks and get the win rather comfortably. 109-97. We will break it down. The Clippers postcast comes on after every Clippers game, and we get into the details of what happens. I've been covering sports in LA for ESPN LA and NBC Sports Radio dating back to 2007. Kawhi Leonard did not play in this one. I thought for sure he would be out there with the rest that he's had. Hasn't played a game in April. His last game was March 31st, but they said that the inflammation in his knee is still there. Being a person that deals with inflammation in the knee, having had ACL surgery many moons ago, 25 plus years ago, I can relate to a certain extent. Obviously, I'm not a high-level professional athlete, nor have I ever been, but I do know this, that when you get swelling in that knee and you put ice on it for a few days in a row, that usually makes the swelling go down. So I don't understand what's going on there. Sometimes there's just swelling, I don't believe it could be some arthritis. It's very interesting as to whether or not he is going to come back. Ty Lue is kind of dancing on the fence as to what is the real situation with Kawhi Leonard's health, like where he is. And, it's like he hopes to have him back this series. Yeah, I think we all hope to. I guess it's good news that didn't need him today. As a matter of fact, I think it probably would have been an issue if he were out there, right? The thing we've said over and over again about this team, or the thing I've said, is that when James Harden is going well, they're going to play well. And James Harden got off to a good start today. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that he had the ball in his hands a little bit more. Now, it's completely possible that Ty Lue has a rotation plan where he keeps James Harden on the floor a little bit more, and Kawhi Leonard and Paul George maybe share a little time, but that would seem strange, I think, right? That would be a little bit of a surprising move. If Kawhi Leonard is healthy and he is out there, he's going to play the normal amount of time, 28 at a minimum, probably more like 33 to 35, like all the starters did tonight, except for Mimir Coffey. So I was a little bit worried when I saw that at the start of the game. After the first quarter, when they got off to the 34-22 lead, I didn't think it was a problem. And even at the end of the season, before they started resting everybody and they were playing pretty well down the stretch there, I thought, Kawhi Leonard is, I don't know that they're a much better team with him out there. So I know that's crazy to say. So I guess I feel weird. I'm on the fence here. I don't know. I love the way they played today. And if Kawhi Leonard's out there, it's a different team. Maybe they win by more. Maybe the Mavericks don't close the gap in the fourth quarter and make this game interesting, right? If Kawhi Leonard is on the floor. So 109-97, the final. I guess we'll just have to watch and see what happens. By no means am I saying that if Kawhi Leonard is healthy, he should sit. I'm not saying that. Don't get me wrong. Don't take my words the wrong way. I guess what I'm saying is I'm not terribly upset or worried if he doesn't play, which is very different than if he's healthy, put him on the bench. I'm not saying that. I've made the comment before that back in the day when Kobe and the Lakers were struggling, there were plenty of times when Kobe would get hurt and fans would call the radio station and say, trade Kobe, we don't need him. Of course, that's ridiculous. So in a similar vein, to think that this team could be better without Kawhi Leonard is ridiculous. But the fact is that I don't feel like they need him. So let's hope that Ty Lue has something in his mind, has a plan for when Kawhi Leonard is healthy and back. Maybe they're not rushing him for that reason. I think we're all kind of not surprised by this. This is kind of Kawhi's thing. Yeah, he doesn't appear to be hurt, but he's not playing, right? I don't know if he's soft or I don't know. It's just weird. It is weird. He's been down for a while. He doesn't have any sort of major injury. Nothing happened when he first went out. So hasn't played for, what's today? What is today? The 21st. Right? Yes, the 21st. I was a week ahead of myself. He hasn't played since the 31st. So that's 22 days that he has not played. And here we are still wondering why Kawhi is not on the floor. I just don't get it. So no harm, no foul. Let's hope that he gets healthy and gets out there soon. Clippers got off to a hot start because of James Harden. His passing, his shooting, the energy on defense, the guarding of the perimeter, all of the things that I was really worried about when they would lose games when they had big leads, blowing leads in the fourth quarter, getting beat by teams that were far inferior to them. All of those things seem to be cleaned up. And that's kind of my thought process. That was my hope. That was my fingers crossed wish that these games down the stretch really not as important as the playoffs. And it didn't really matter. They were in the 4th seed for a long time. It really didn't. They were locked in there. They lost some of those games. I got so upset, complaining and whining and telling Ty Lue that he needs to yell at them or do a Bull Durham and throw the bats in the shower and say that this is not acceptable, blah, blah, blah. And really, it's not acceptable. And maybe the fact that they went through those struggles down the stretch of the season will be helpful and beneficial to them in the playoffs, because today it seemed like a lot of those chinks in the armor, those cracks in the dam, transition defense, perimeter defense, turnovers, they cleaned all of that stuff up. So that's good news. Really, really good news. They win today very comfortably. They were up by as many as 29, which is very, very cool. The fourth quarter got a little shaky, but that's okay. It's tough to keep a big lead like that against Luka Doncic. We'll get into the bucket list and we'll break down a little bit more of what they did in the second quarter that was so important and amazing to this victory. I'm Pete Fox. This is the Locked On Clippers postcast on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel, the place to hang out when every game is done. And you can listen to us on the Locked On Clippers podcast feed. We come on after the game and we break it down for you. All right, today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app with over 3 million members. They are the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS. It's just you against the numbers. You pick more, you pick less on 2 to 6 stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Did you get in on it today? I did not. I was involved in other things, so I didn't have the time to go out and do the appropriate research, and I didn't want to just make a projection based on my heart. That's when you sometimes get into trouble. I like to do the research. And one of the cool things about Prize Picks, they give you the research right there when you're looking at a selection. It'll tell you what that player or that team has done in that particular category over the last 5 days. And that's really helpful. They also have this new thing called Demons and Goblins, the newest and most exciting way to play Prize Picks. Squares with marked with red demons have better odds. Squares with green goblins are lower odds, but nonetheless, it helps your payouts and helps you cash. So that's another good thing. If you have a red a red demon, it can pay up to 100 times your money with 4 correct picks, and that's huge. That you can turn $100 into $1,000. Quick deposits and easy withdrawals. My initial deposit was super painless and hassle-free. So go to PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use the code LockedOnNBA for your first deposit match up to $100. I got one of those. The withdrawals are also super painless, which is another added benefit. PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the code LockedOnNBA for your first deposit match up to $100. You pick more, you pick less. It is that simple. All right, Clippers with a 109-97 win over the Mavericks. Mavericks rallied a little bit in the fourth. They were down to, they had the deficit. The Mavericks had the deficit down to 15 at the 8-minute mark. Ty Lue called a timeout right then, and they came out of that and made a nice play, scored a basket. I believe it was a 3, and it was needed at that point. Paul George kind of took over a little bit, making clutch shots. James Harden continued to roll. All in all, they let him back in a little bit, but I do appreciate the energy. And they did a pretty good job, I think, of slowing down Ivica Zubac. I'm sorry, Luka Doncic. I'm getting ready to make a comment about Ivica Zubac, but I think they did a pretty good job on Luka. He started to take over in the fourth, trying to get them back into the game. And that was the main part of the reason they did close that deficit. But there was that one play where Ivica Zubac had the elbow and got called for a technical foul. And it kind of seemed like it was a stupid play at the time, but I kind of disagree. What are your thoughts? I'd love to hear, because to me, a lot of times we feel like Ivica Zubac plays soft, especially on defense. He's a little bit more aggressive on offense in the paint, and consequently, he's very, very effective scoring the basketball. 10 of 17 today for 20 points. But there are times when we criticize him for being too soft. And when he threw that elbow, I was like, what are you doing? Just like the announcers were doing. I kind of maybe fell into their thought process on this. It was a dumb play at the wrong time. But then I started thinking, well, I don't know, though. I mean, it kind of got the Clippers a little bit focused, fired up a little bit, and it showed energy. It showed aggression, and I liked that from him. I don't know that he did it on purpose, but I like the fact that he was playing the game really, really aggressive, and that's a good thing for them. And the other thing that was interesting, right at that time, PJ Washington threw Harden to the ground, and that just kind of went unnoticed. I was like, how is Zoo getting this call when Washington manhandled Russell Westbrook or James Harden and threw him to the ground right at the exact same time? They just kind of didn't notice that. So I guess no harm, no foul. But I thought that all in all, it wasn't terrible that Ivica made that play at that point in time, because it kind of got them fired up. Earlier in the game, Russell Westbrook got all mixed up with somebody. I think it was Washington as well, and did that. He wrapped up Washington's arm and then was like, what did I do? What did I do? But then right after that, he ramped up his defensive energy and was playing fired up. And I know Russell Westbrook plays fired up all the time, but that got him up to another level. And even the announcers made the comment that you do not want to fire up Russell Westbrook. That is not a good spot for him to be in if you were the opposition. But nonetheless, I think all in all, across the board, everybody played very well tonight, and they did a really good job on the things that have been causing them issues. Like, for example, one of the things I've harped on relentlessly is turnovers. They had 12 tonight. That's not a great number, but a lot of those turnovers did not turn into points. So it wasn't as bad as that number would indicate, and it could be worse. But the fact is that they didn't let those things harm them. They didn't let them affect them. And they just played defense. I think that was the biggest part of this. They out rebounded the Mavericks in the end. Mavericks had 41 rebounds, Clippers with 45 rebounds. And I thought that was a big part of the early pull away, the early lead for the Clippers, because when the Mavs were just shooting terribly. The Clippers did not give them second chance opportunities. I don't know if you saw that number, but at the end of the first half, the Mavericks were shooting 22% from the floor. They made just 9 shots in the first half, and they were shooting 11% from beyond the arc. Clippers got off to a very, very hot start in the first quarter, 61% from the floor. James Harden had 12 points, and they shot 75 points from beyond the arc. Dre, I agree. Amazing game. Hopefully they can keep this up. Let's see what Zitmo has to say here. Kawhi Leonard is proven and accomplished that the people who should be rooting for him will find a reason to passively aggressively discredit him, but we'll give Luka every bit of credit. Fair point, but he kind of deserves it a little bit. I mean, I'm here to say that Kawhi Leonard is a stud. I mean, he went to high school about 10 minutes from where I live with my wife's son, oldest son. And by all accounts, he's a great dude. Everyone loved him. He was friendly, led that team to a CIF title. He's a stud. But you cannot overlook the fact that there are questions around his health, right? Or his ability to fight through something, or his desire to fight through something. I don't know if that seems unfair. I don't think it is, because this is a routine. This is something that happens on a regular basis. Didn't play last year in the postseason at all, I think. Or maybe he played 1 or 2 games and then was done. Paul George has proven when healthy will come to play. Yes, he is a stud. Yeah, I have no doubt. And one of the reasons I'm like, all right, if Kawhi's hurt, he's hurt, because we got Paul George and we got James Harden and Russell Westbrook's playing well. So and they even talked about that in the broadcast, that's one of the reasons they brought in James Harden, just because that there is a history of these guys getting hurt. These guys being Kawhi, Paul George, etc. So the fact that they have a James Harden who is a durable player and comes to play in the postseason, 15 consecutive years in the postseason for him, that is amazing. They went on some runs. James Harden, part of all of those, an 11-0 run. And then there was a 9-0 run. Oh, I'm sorry, a 22 run at the end of the first into the second. So that's how they pulled away. That's how they got a comfortable lead. They held the Dallas Mavericks to 8 points in the second quarter. 8 points. Yes, that is unlikely to happen again. Nifty fuzzball. I feel so stupid referring to you people by your handles. One of our Dodger guys, Craig, is here, and I like the fact that Craig just is like, hi, I'm Craig Osterberg. That's my name. Got Mega Driver. Zubac was doing his job. I know, played well. That's why I didn't have a problem with it. At first, I was a little upset, like, why are you giving away points? But the fact is that he's in there mixing it up. That's good stuff right there. Let's get a little bit more into the details with the bucket list tonight. In at number 5, Paul George hit a 3 at the 7:08 mark of the first. It was a sweet pass from Coffee. It made it 16-9. Paul George finished the night, or the day rather, with how many threes? I think he had a pretty decent day. He hit 4 threes, but it was 4 of 12, so not great. James Harden, 6 of 11 from beyond the arc. Russell Westbrook in at number 4 on the bucket list for a corner 3 at the 4-minute mark. It was shortly after he entered the game. They might have been his first points. It made it 21-13. It was a sweet pass from James Harden. Russ was 2 of 4 from beyond the arc for 13 points on the night. James Harden had a deep 3 right at the end of the first quarter. It made it 34-22. He had back-to-back threes. I think he hit 3 or 4 in a row. He was just on fire, and it was so nice to see. And then he was drawing the fouls and doing that thing where he just falls apart beyond the arc, and the refs go for it. And there was one call that was a little bit iffy, that they claimed he swung his leg out and potentially drew that foul unfairly. They should have reviewed it, but they did not. I could see that being one that would go against Harden, but fortunately, the Mavs chose not to review. For number 2, James Harden again, but more for the pass that he made to Russell Westbrook for an alley-oop at the 11:49 mark of the second. It was so sweet. Just Russ penetrating with aggression and slamming it down. 36-22 the score at that point. And then James Harden, number one tonight on the bucket list, a three out of a timeout, 3:15 of the fourth. In essence, it was the dagger. It was right at that point where the Mavs were making a little bit of a run, a little bit of a push, and Clipper fans were starting to chew their nails and get a little bit worried. But that three kind of put that final nail in the coffin and slam the lid on it for the Clippers as they go on to win 109-97. We'll get into the stat breakdown a little bit more after this. Thanks for watching us here on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel, the place to hang out when every game is done. And thanks for listening on the Locked On Clippers podcast feed. All right, today's show, also brought to you by our friends at BetterHelp. BetterHelp is a great way for you to find your strengths. You can quickly ditch all of the resolutions that you do around the first of the year or the extreme changes to your personality, or, you read a book and you're like, I want to do more of this or do more of that. And one of the cool things about BetterHelp is when you find a therapist that you can relate to, they do a really good job of helping you understand things that cause you frustration. I've done therapy a few different times over the years, and I've always found it helpful from the standpoint that it gives me the tools to deal with things that are frustrating to me, things that are, roadblocks, if you will, in your relationship. So they always give you the tools, and that's kind of cool where you're in a stressful situation. You can think back to a few things that they've given you to use in these situations, and it makes those tough times a little bit easier to deal with. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. And having done both in-person and video chat, they really are very, very similar. It's very personal. Celebrate the progress that you have already made. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, Clippers with a 109-97 win over the Dallas Mavericks to take game one at Crypto.com. James Harden leading the way for the Clips, going 8 of 17 in 39 minutes, 6 of 11 from beyond the arc, perfect from the line. He had 8 assists, 2 rebounds, 2 blocks, 1 turnover. So that was really clean there. They did spread out the 12 over the starting lineup pretty evenly, except for Russell Westbrook, but he wasn't in the starting lineup. And I think that's something that we're willing to deal with and we're willing to accept, and we're not too upset about it, especially in a win. He had 4 turnovers today, but as I said, 13 points, 4 assists, 4 rebounds. He was doing a little bit of everything, especially bringing the energy. And I think that pays dividends for the Clippers in the long run. Paul George, 22 points, 4 of 12, going 8 of 20 in 38 minutes. He had just 2 turnovers, 1 steal, 3 assists, 6 rebounds. Zubac's very clean, 33 minutes, 10 of 17, 20 points, 15 boards. Terrence Mann started. He was 4 of 8, 3 of 3 from beyond the arc. He had some clutch threes as well. One of them coming in the... What was that? Terrence Mann, corner 3 in the final seconds of the third quarter. That made it 87-64. He hit back-to-back threes there in the end of the third, early in the fourth, that were very, very important to the Clippers keeping their foot on the pedal. So 3 of 3 from beyond the arc, finished with 13 points, a plus-minus of +12. And Amir Coffey played 25 minutes, 2 of 7, 2 of 4 from beyond the arc for 6 points. Plumlee came off the bench for 13 points. He had 1 basket. Russell Westbrook, 23 minutes, 5 of 8. That's a night you don't see very often for Russell Westbrook, where only misses 3 shots and hit 2 of 4 from beyond the arc. He had 4 assists, 4 rebounds, 13 points. And Norman Powell, 2 of 6, 1 3 for 5 points, but played a lot of defense, provided the energy, and did what Norman Powell does coming off the bench. He usually hits more threes, but in this situation, being up as big as they were, they didn't really need it. It felt like that was unnecessary, and he's smart enough to understand that I don't need to start shooting right now. One of the things I loved about this game was the energy that they provided on defense, closing out, in the paint, the active hands, all of these things that we have watched them do in wins that when they lose, they don't do. It's very, very clear when the Clippers lose why they lose. And the converse to that would be when they win, you can see the reasons why. They play defense. They are much better in transition on both sides of the ball. The energy that is kind of keyed by Russell Westbrook translates to the whole team. There was one point that he was running around like he does, ramped up to 100 and, pressuring the guy trying to penetrate, and he reached around, and it would happen so fast. If you're not used to seeing Russ do that, you'll never catch it. But he reached around and he poked that ball out, and it was right around that point in time that he got mixed up with Washington. So the energy was a little bit higher. He's gesturing to the crowd, running his mouth, and all of that. If he's not on your team, you absolutely hate him. But the fact is that he's good for this Clipper team, and it was solid play, and it translated across the board to the whole team, offensively and defensively. The points in the paint for the Clippers in the second, very good. 18 to 4 outscoring the Mavericks in the paint. So that's huge. And that was part of that 22 run. So that's a big part of that is Ivica Zubac cleaning things up when layups are missed. And if they can keep that up and keep the shooters for the Dallas Mavericks at bay by guarding the perimeter and clogging up the lane, I feel like the Clippers have a real shot in this one. But as many people have said, don't get too excited after a win in the first game, especially a big one, because the Clippers are not that good and the Mavericks are not that bad. These are two very evenly matched teams, hence the reason they're 4-5 in the West. And this series is going to be tough all the way to the very end, unless, of course, I'm completely wrong and Kawhi Leonard comes back in game 2 and, they roll off 3 out of 4 and then win it in 5 games. I don't see that happening. I know this team too well. I feel like this is going to go 6 or 7. Hopefully the Clippers can get Kawhi back to add some depth, and they can take this series. As for the Mavericks, just to give you a little bit of their numbers, of course, they were led by Doncic with 33. He only had 4 threes, 4 of 12. Again, they shot 11% in the first half from beyond the arc. Just nothing was falling. And you have to assume, as some of the people in the comments have made, that that's not going to continue for them. They'll figure it out. They'll get it rolling again and get back on track, because there's just no way they can be that bad again. Kyrie Irving had 31 points, 10 of 18, 3 of 6 from beyond the arc. And PJ Washington, the only other starter in double figures, had 11 in 37 minutes. And that's pretty much it for double figures for the entire team. Gafford, 1 of 4 for 3 points. And Jones Jr. Did not score. The other starter only played 18 minutes off the bench. Kleber played 27 minutes, had 3 points, and Hardaway Jr. had 6 points. So Clippers did a good job of slowing them down, and they also did a good job of filling it up. Let's hope that James Harden can keep that up and keep scoring. Russell Westbrook can continue with the energy, and that Kawhi comes back and add depth. Yes, Diego, depth is going to make up for Kawhi's absence. Well, yes, it is, but even better if the depth is larger, because Kawhi is back out there on the floor. I thought this dude was a Lakers fan. What dude? Los Dodgers World Series champs. Yeah, by the way, how about those Dodgers? I predicted that one, Craig. I also do Dodgers postcast, by the way. So when we're not doing Clippers, I'll be doing the Dodgers postcast on the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel. And after yesterday, I said, I'm feeling a ass whooping tomorrow, and today 10-0. So there you go. You're welcome. I hope you took that to Prize Picks or whatever. Clippers with a comfortable 109-97 win. I believe they are off until, what is it, Tuesday? When do they even play again? I don't even know. I haven't even looked at that far ahead. So today, the next one is the 23rd, which is Tuesday. Yeah. So off tomorrow. Dodgers off tomorrow as well. Both back in action on Tuesday. So I'll be here with you guys doing Locked On Clippers, and hopefully the Clippers can grab a 2-0 advantage in this Western Conference first round series. Thank you for joining me here. As I've said, always here right after the game for the postcast, the Locked On Sports LA YouTube channel, and you can listen to us on the Locked On Clippers podcast feed. Have a good evening. We will talk again on Tuesday.